Today we're going to practice compassion, the second of the Buddhist Brahma-viharas, or divine abodes. So you can settle into a comfortable position. It's okay to be a little less rigid and strict while doing the heart practices, but I also find it helpful to still find a position of energy and awareness, something where movement can be minimized. And we can start with simply bringing ourselves to mind. Maybe it's as we're sitting here right now. Maybe it's when we were younger. Maybe we went through a moment of suffering, big or small, recently. Just bringing yourself to mind in whatever state works for you. It doesn't have to be a visual. You don't have to know exactly how you looked at that time or this time, but just a sense of you. And maybe you can think of a moment or a time in which you experienced some suffering in your life. And thinking about yourself with or without this suffering. Can practice opening the heart and caring about our own suffering. Compassion is an antidote to aversion. So rather than running from our suffering or trying to stuff it down, to really turn toward it and care about it. You can use the phrases, "May I be free from suffering." "May I care about my suffering." "May I be free from suffering." And may I care about my suffering. If you have a phrase that works for you or rings a little more truthfully, feel free to use it. Some other phrases I've heard are, "I love you, keep going," or "I love you and I'm right here with you." So there is some room for creativity, but pick a phrase or two and stick with it. Finding a rhythm and just continuing to set this intention to open the heart to our suffering. May I be free from suffering. I care about my suffering. and letting yourself go from the mind can bring to mind a benefactor. This is a mentor, a teacher, somebody who's cared about you deeply. It could be somebody that you've never met, the Dalai Lama, Thich Nhat Hanh, Deepa Ma. You don't need to search for the perfect person. You can work with whoever comes to mind. And maybe you can think of a time or way in which this person suffered, and maybe not, but recognizing that suffering is a part of life, and we all go through it, can bring some compassion up, using the phrases, "May you be free from suffering." "I care about your suffering." "May you be free from suffering." "I care about your suffering." And it's okay if we don't have a white light, compassionate moment or super emotional response. Reminding ourselves that this practice takes time. It's a slow process of opening the heart, of turning towards suffering. May you be free from suffering. I care about your suffering. And you can bring to mind a neutral person, somebody with whom you have some sort of regular contact, but don't know very well, no intimate relationship. Maybe it's somebody who works at the local grocery store, a bus driver, a co-worker, a neighbor. And although you don't know much about this person or their life, can be sure that they've experienced some suffering in their lives. And again, setting the intention to open the heart and care about this person's suffering unconditionally. May you be free from suffering. I care about your suffering. Saying these phrases over and over, finding a rhythm, and when the mind wanders, just coming back to the phrases, letting the other thoughts or stories, judgments, letting it all go, returning to compassion. May you be free from suffering. I care about your suffering. And you can bring to mind now a difficult person. I know a lot of people will disregard this suggestion, but try to not pick the most difficult person. I know we have a little bit of a desire to work with that person and bring compassion to these tough relationships, but it's a process. So pick someone who's minorly difficult in your life, whatever that means to you. Maybe they've harmed you or someone you care about. Maybe they push your buttons and you just find them irritating. And watching out for any stories that arise, replaying any situations, any old arguments. Just bring compassion to this person. Just like you, just like me, just like our benefactors and our neutral people, this person too suffers. May you be free from suffering. I care about your suffering. And although you may not mean these phrases right now, just setting the intention to open the heart, the intention to care about this person's suffering. May you be free from suffering. I care about your suffering.